Well, it's over. And yeah, that's pretty much all to say. It's over. This is my review of Mockingjay Part 2, and I'm gonna give my. Sorry if I don't sound that enthused. As you can probably tell, I wasn't that impressed with Mockingjay Part 2, which may or may not be the filmmaker's fault. I don't know, but anyway, I'm just gonna talk about books. Enjoyed the first two, kind of like the third one. Movies, book first one was a good adaptation. Second one was a really good adaptation. The third one surprisingly made the two-part thing work, and this one kind of does because, I mean, first off, I have to say, spoiler alert. Like, I can't talk about this film without going into spoilers. I mean, it's basically the ending of the series, so, like, in the sense that this is literally the climax. So I really, like, objectively, I can't talk about this film without ruining stuff. So if you haven't seen the film, if you've read the books, like, stick around because, I mean, you've read the books, you know what's gonna happen more or less. I mean, I haven't read them all, so I don't know if I forget the specifics of what happened. So if there are certain details that were better explained, if there's certain events that didn't quite play out the way they should, I don't remember them. But I mean, here's the thing. I wasn't a huge fan of the ending to the Hunger Games. I thought it was like kind of underwhelming. Like, that's it. So when the film does it, I mean, again, it's that same sense of underwhelming, but it's also that sense of do I criticize the filmmakers for that ending? Because again, that's the ending they're stuck with. They have to tell that ending. They cannot like rewrite the ending to the Hunger Games to make it better. So again, like the stuff they were doing was meh, but at the same time, it was like this was the ending they're stuck with, and objectively, like, I mean, I'm always about like how well you adapt something, and they adapted it well. I mean, it was well shot, well acted, like everything. I mean, the whole raid in the Capitol felt a little too video gamey at times, and I don't quite remember the action scene from the sewer raid. I mean, maybe it's there, but I don't remember it that well. But being there, I'm sure I'd remember something about that. But other than that, it felt a little too video gamey and a little too CGI and a little too convenient. But again, it's like, I don't know. It's my same fault with the books. Everything leading up into the Capitol bit is well done. Then everything after that just sort of feels sort of meh. I will say this though, if you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, I'd recommend the ideal way to watch them is one together, back to back. It's one story, and you clearly get that sense. It's like this clearly feels like the same story we were watching last year, and not only that, but it feels more complete that way. Like both ways, you feel like you're just getting one chunk of a story, and it's better to watch them together because, for one, you've just saw the first one. You can easily remember what happens. Also, a lot of the character development is in the first half. Like, there's a lot of characters who die in this movie, and like, there's not a lot of weight because like the film doesn't reestablish them. Like, there's one major character death. I won't okay, death, and that character had a lot of scenes in the first part, which nice setup. But here, this character's only there for like 2 scenes, and their death doesn't mean as much. I mean, especially considering how long it's been since the last few films. And it suffers a significant lack of Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean, this is something, again, I don't want to fault the filmmakers too much for this, since this is an issue they had to work around. It's not something like that they could have prevented. I mean, they do the best they can, but I mean, CGIing him in here and there. Like, there's one major scene, and that was clearly meant for him that they have to give to someone else. But even then, like, his presence is still felt. I mean, he's in like 2 scenes. He only gets a few minutes of screen time, but it's, again, they really didn't get to shoot much with him, and he doesn't get that much to do, which is an unfortunate tragedy. I mean, again, they do the best they can to work around his death, though. So again, not the filmmaker's fault. Which again, this whole thing is just a matter of a lot of stuff that the filmmakers don't have control over, but they sort of have to go of it anyway. And to be fair, they do roll the punches and do a decent job. But at the same time, it still doesn't make it any more underwhelming to watch than it was to read. And especially the epilogue, which it's the same thing as Harry Potter, where do we really need to see this? I mean, especially here, like, it would have been fine if they had just ended the film with Katniss going into bed with Peeta, fade to black, I would have been like, fine. In fact, even while I was saying, I was like, just go to black. But no, they have to do the stupid, I love you too, and then we cut ahead like some unspecified number of years later. And we get the unnecessary epilogue where it's the same actors we saw before, and there's very little effort done to make them look older. Katniss, there's no makeup. Peeta's makeup is laughable. It's like, I thought we were supposed to learn from that really stupid ending to Harry Potter. So yeah, I mean, it's a complicated film because there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's not terrible, but at the same time, it's not brilliant. I mean, they do a good job adapting it, but it's still a lame story. It has more action than the first half, and a lot of stuff happens, but at the same time, I really don't care about what happens. Like, I don't know, I mean, it didn't quite hit me satisfy me the way something like Harry Potter's ending did, or Lord of the Rings' ending did. But, and, you know, this is a franchise that I enjoy, so it's kind of sad that it has to end on a very underwhelming note. So again, not the filmmaker's fault. And again, like, there's far worse. I mean, it could be the Divergent series. It could be Twilight. It could be The Hobbit. Oh my gosh, The Hobbit's ending was... Again, if you're a diehard Hunger Games fan, like, you're going to love this. I mean, I was at an advanced screening, and there were tons of girls there who are diehard Hunger Games fans, and it's still amazing that this franchise is still popular. I mean, I don't know. People don't quite talk about it anymore. And I don't know, the audience for it, I feel like, has sort of died off. And, like, even at this point, watching the film, there was that part of me that was sort of questioning, like, why do I like the Hunger Games? What drew me to it? And even though I adored the previous films, and I guess that's one fault of this one, but even then I was watching it, and I was like, I mean, I've read other stuff, seen others, but I don't know, again, I just felt underwhelmed. But again, like, there were tons of girls, like, laughing at certain parts. They went aw during the kissing scenes. They went aw when Buttercup has a brief appearance. Everyone cheered at this one death, which I won't ruin. Like, something happens and then everyone just starts clapping, including me. It was like, it's one of those fun moments. It's why I go to advanced screenings. I mean, there's this engagement the audience has with the film that you know there. Oh yeah, and also there was this one girl who was like tear behind me. It was like I heard her tearing up. Like, I turned around, and she was like, and there was like one girl wearing her Mockingjay pin. So yeah, I mean, again, if you're like a diehard fan of this franchise and you just love it through and through, like, go see the ending. If you enjoyed the ending in the book, go see it. If you weren't a fan of this when the book, it's pretty much the same sense of frustration and underwhelmingness here. That's it. And, I mean, see it in the theater just because people talk about it, but I mean, again, like, it's probably my least favorite of the entries. I mean, I prefer the first one because the promise of what it's building to, and there's a lot more character and substance, whereas here it's just a lot of straightforward video gamey action and that underwhelming ending. But yeah, it's kind of sad that we're sort of ending on this sort of end note. I mean, again, this is a franchise I really enjoy, but I'm glad it's over. I mean, in a world where we have like stuff like Marvel, where it's going to go on forever, and Star Wars, where they say they're going to release a film a year, which will probably turn to 2 or 3. It's nice to have a franchise that's like has an ending. Although they're making the Harry Potter prequels, and if they go over well, I have no doubt we're going to revisit this franchise and get a really lame and unnecessary sequel or prequel. So yeah, met film, but nothing, not the best film I ever saw, but again, I've also seen far worse. Honestly, the best part of the film, along with the fact that that I was in an AMC Prime with really comfy renovated seats, although seating's more limited now with AMC Prime. Anyway, but trailers were cut down to 6 minutes. I don't know if this was a new policy since I haven't. Last time I went to an AMC was to see The Martian, but there were only 2 trailers, 6 minutes, which is a record. I mean, even like the theater I go to see like the smaller films, like when I went to go see Jobs and Bridge of Spies, like even they didn't do that. But I got 2 trailers. One just looked terrible, and part of it just came from looking at the other came from the release date. It's called The Fifth Wave. I've never heard of this book before, but it's being adapted because it's somewhat like, or at least the trailers made it look terrible. It looks like basically one of those what do we got films, like, okay, Hunger Games is popular, is there any young adult novel that's like Hunger Games? And literally there's just so, like, she looks like Katniss, the female, like, I just got a Hunger Games-y vibe, plus this element, and it also reminded me of The Host, which why would you want to adapt The Host? I mean, that film went over poorly. And mixed in with District 9, it looks underwhelming. And topping it all off, it's coming out in January, and if you don't know, January has been nicknamed "Fuck You, It's January" because that's where unless you're like an awards contender, like usually January's all the dumping ground. The worst of the year get dumped in January. Although Kung Fu Panda 3 might change that, but then although films like Kung Fu Panda Paddington have changed that, and also Kung Fu Panda 3, but again, those are both films that were never originally intended for the January release, but got moved there. So who knows, maybe January's starting to become the good spot. But yeah, for the most part, but with a couple exceptions, it's still fuck you, it's January. And I got the Batman v Superman trailer, which came out months ago, which, I mean, I think I already talked about it. If not, I'll talk about it again real quick. It looks cool, but I mean, it's probably going to be lame, but I'll obligate to see it. So those are my thoughts on Mockingjay Part 2. I'm going to have a link to my review of the other films in the description. I'm also going to link my thoughts going into this one, but I'm not going to do that right now because that's going to take a while, and again, it's like 2 in the morning, and I'm tired, and I'm a student in college, and I have work I need to get done. But yeah, like, in the morning, I'll probably, like, upload my written review and stuff, so bear with me in doing that. I just wanted to do this now while it's hot. So, but yeah, I mean, check back within like 12 hours and I should have it up. So yeah, so what did you think of the ending? Did you like it? Comment below, let me know. And as always, like, dislike, comment, subscribe. And this is JStar60. And it's been a pleasure reviewing the Hunger Games with you. Until next time, take care.